Many of today's top Hollywood stars first rose to fame in the 1980s, and Kim Basinger was no exception. Now 69 years old, it's almost hard to believe how much the former Bond girl has changed over the years. Once a successful model-turned-actress, Basinger faced a string of financial setbacks that ultimately pushed her out of the public eye. Her journey was marked by more than just money troubles. She endured multiple challenges that derailed her once promising career. But finances weren't her only struggle. Behind the fame, there was another deeply personal battle that haunted the beloved 80s icon. Curious about what really happened to Kim Basinger and how her life took such a dramatic turn? Stick around, because the full story is one you won't want to miss. But before we dive into the ups and downs of her fame, let's take a look at where it all began, with her modest early life. Kim Basinger was born on December 8, 1953, to Ann Lee and Donald Wade Basinger. Interestingly, show business ran in the family. Her mother had also worked as a model and actress, while her father balanced a job as a loan manager with his passion for music, playing in a big band. As the third of 5 children, Kim grew up surrounded by siblings, 2 older brothers, Skip and Mike, and 2 younger sisters, Barbara and Ashley. Though she would later shine on screen, Kim was an extremely shy child. In fact, she once admitted that her anxiety was so intense, she nearly fainted when asked to speak in front of her class. That overwhelming shyness didn't just fade with age, it lingered, deeply affecting her teenage years and eventually evolving into something more serious. But we'll get to that part of her story soon. Despite her introverted nature, Kim had a fairly typical upbringing. She began ballet lessons at the tender age of 3 and continued dancing well into her teens. Ballet turned out to be more than just a hobby. It helped her build self-confidence, a trait that would come in handy later. Despite her introverted nature, Kim had a fairly typical upbringing. She began ballet lessons at the tender age of 3 and continued dancing well into her teens. Ballet turned out to be more than just a hobby. It helped her build self-confidence, a trait that would come in handy later. With striking looks and undeniable poise, it was only natural for Kim to enter the modeling world. Although she initially declined an offer from the prestigious Ford modeling agency, she chose instead to enroll at the University of Georgia, where she explored singing and acting. But she later changed her mind, joining the agency where she was soon earning a jaw-dropping $1,000 a day. Still, despite the success, Kim found little joy in the modeling industry. The constant pressure to look perfect and the endless stream of gigs left her feeling stifled. "I couldn't stand it. I felt myself choking," she told author James Robert Parrish in the Hollywood Book of Extravagance back in 2007. Once her contract with Ford came to an end, she did some magazine covers and even appeared on the debut album cover of the rock band Survivor. Meanwhile, she was splitting her time between modeling jobs, acting classes at the neighborhood playhouse, and singing in Greenwich Village clubs. Eventually, the glitz of modeling wore thin. Ready for a change, Basinger decided to focus fully on acting, and that decision would change everything. After moving to Los Angeles, Kim Basinger began landing small television roles, including appearances on Macmillan and Wife and Charlie's Angels. Her big break came in 1978 when she scored her first leading role in Katie, Portrait of a Centerfold, a film about a small-town girl who becomes a famous magazine model in Hollywood. From there, her schedule quickly filled up, with most of her early work consisting of roles in television series. But true commercial success came when she stepped into the shoes of Domino Petacci, a Bond girl in the 1983 film Never Say Never Again, where she starred opposite the legendary Sean Connery. Adding to her rising fame was a Playboy photo shoot she had done in 1981, which gained attention after her Bond role. That exposure led to even more opportunities, including her role alongside Robert Redford in the 1984 film The Natural. Her performance earned her a Golden Globe nomination for Best Supporting Actress. Director Blake Edwards was particularly taken with Basinger's screen presence. He cast her in two of his films, first in The Man Who Loved Women, 1983, where she played the glamorous wife of a Texas millionaire, and later in the 1987 comedy Blind Date, portraying a reserved woman on a chaotic night out with a work-obsessed man. While both films were well received, it was her role in the 1986 erotic drama 9½ Weeks that became a defining moment in her career. Starring opposite Mickey Rourke, Basinger played an art gallery assistant caught in an emotionally intense relationship. Although it didn't perform well in North America, the film gained a massive cult following in Europe, especially in France, and became one of the most talked-about movies of the 1980s. However, the experience behind the scenes was far from glamorous. Basinger revealed that filming 9½ Weeks was deeply distressing. She endured emotional manipulation and even physical abuse during production. She recalled one of the worst moments during the audition process, which left her in tears and questioning whether she should continue with the project. Director Adrian Lyne, recognizing the damage, sent her 24 red roses and a letter of apology in a bid to make amends. It was enough to persuade her to stay on. Her performance in the film catapulted her to international stardom, though not necessarily in the way she had hoped. Despite her desire to be recognized for her acting skills, audiences mostly focused on her appearance, branding her as a sex symbol. While it wasn't the worst reputation to have in Hollywood, it did limit the types of roles she was offered. Lyne even bragged in an interview with the New York Times about a disturbing scene where Rourke forcefully grabbed Basinger as she cried and hit him until he let go, only to be slapped by him moments later, causing her to have a panic attack. Years later, Basinger admitted she almost quit acting because of the trauma, but ultimately found strength in pushing through it. She said that although it was painful, it helped her confront her fears head-on. Thankfully, she didn't let that experience stop her from taking on new roles. One of her most acclaimed performances came years later in the 1997 neo-noir film L.A. Confidential. Playing the role of Lynn Bracken, a femme fatale in 1950s Los Angeles, Basinger received high praise. The role earned her an Oscar, a Golden Globe, and a BAFTA nomination, finally proving to the world that she was far more than just a pretty face. Despite her successes, Basinger understood the unpredictability of fame. In a 2013 Vanity Fair interview, she spoke candidly about how unstable the industry can be. While she had a string of successful films and projects under her belt, she remained grounded, always aware that her career could shift at any moment. She also opened up about her struggles with agoraphobia, a condition she developed in 1981, a year after marrying her second husband. During a routine trip to a health food store, she suffered a debilitating panic attack that led her to isolate herself at home for 6 months. She explained that this anxiety disorder was one of the major reasons she stepped back from the public eye. Unlike many in the industry, Basinger chose not to rely on medication or substances to manage her mental health. Instead, she faced her fears head-on and found healthier ways to cope. "I didn't want to live on drugs," she told Vanity Fair. "I wanted to face everything I was afraid of. Now, I wake up and enjoy life." Multiple factors eventually contributed to Basinger's decision to step away from Hollywood. While some stars fall from grace due to scandal or addiction, Basinger's withdrawal stemmed from a mix of financial missteps and the rigid standards of the entertainment world. At her peak, she was often cast for her looks rather than her acting ability. A glance at her filmography shows a pattern. Many of her roles were seductive women, mysterious love interests, or characters in erotic thrillers. Her success was largely based on her appearance, which, like all things in Hollywood, couldn't last forever. As she aged, the roles she had been typecast in began to disappear, and since acting was her main source of income, she found herself taking roles that didn't suit her or flopped at the box office. One major flop in Kim Basinger's career was the 1992 comedy fantasy film Cool World. The movie stirred up quite a bit of controversy and was largely seen as a failed attempt to replicate the success of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, since it also blended live action with animation. Basinger played both the animated and real-life versions of the seductive character Hollywood, a femme fatale who aimed to escape her cartoon universe by luring in the artist who created her. The film was originally meant to be a dark, edgy piece directed by Ralph Bakshi, an animator famous for his adults-only X-rated projects. But things took a turn when Basinger reportedly pushed for a more family-friendly version, even saying she wanted the film to be shown in children's hospitals. Naturally, this clashed with Bakshi's original vision and sparked a lot of creative conflict behind the scenes. The result was chaotic, and it was no surprise that Cool World ended up flopping hard at the box office. Following that disaster, Basinger saw fewer offers from major studios. She mostly starred in low-budget productions and straight-to-video releases. While she delivered standout performances in hits like LA Confidential and Batman, those were rare bright spots in a career filled with misfires. According to Rotten Tomatoes, her track record isn't great. Only 6 of her films received positive reviews from both critics and audiences. On the other hand, 26 of her movies were poorly received, with several earning single-digit scores. Her 2000 thriller Bless the Child holds the unfortunate distinction of being her lowest-rated film. The string of box office failures didn't just hurt her reputation, they also contributed to her fall from grace in Hollywood. Though she once held both an Oscar and a Golden Globe, Basinger also earned less flattering recognition from the Razzies, which honor the worst in cinema each year. Over her career, she racked up 9 Razzie nominations and even won one. In 2001, just a few years after her Oscar win, she was nominated twice in the Worst Actress category for Bless the Child and I Dreamed of Africa. At one point, Basinger made headlines, not for a role, but for a bold real estate investment. On the advice of her family, she bought nearly the entire town of Brazleton, Georgia, 1,691 acres, for $20 million. Her plan was to turn it into a tourist hotspot with film studios, a Hollywood-themed amusement park, and a film festival. But none of it panned out. With the area remaining undeveloped, she eventually sold it off for just $1 million, suffering a massive financial loss. The situation worsened with the Boxing Helena lawsuit. After backing out of the controversial film, Basinger was sued by Mainline Pictures. A jury initially ordered her to pay $8.1 million, a sum she couldn't afford. She filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And though the amount was later reduced, she still had to pay $7.4 million, plus another $4 million in legal fees. Eventually, they reached a settlement, but she still owed Mainline $3.8 million. Much of this trouble stemmed from her decision to exit the film without warning, and publicly trashing the script didn't help. In her heyday, Basinger's beauty and fame drew a lot of attention, and she was romantically linked to several high-profile men. Before making it big, she dated model Tim Saunders, football legend Joe Namath, and photographer Dale Robinette. But she only married twice. Her first husband was makeup artist Ron Snyder-Britton, whom she met on the set of Hard Country. They wed on October 12, 1980. At Basinger's request, Snyder legally changed his name to Britton so that their initials would match, something she apparently cared about quite a bit. However, the marriage ended in divorce just before Christmas in 1989. Afterward, she paid him $9,000 a month in alimony for the next 8 years. In his memoir, Longer Than Forever, Snyder-Britton claimed he discovered Basinger was having an affair with actor Richard Gere in 1986. He said he found love letters from Gere and even caught the two kissing at a restaurant. Despite the betrayal, the couple eventually parted ways on relatively peaceful terms. Later, Batman producer John Peters revealed that he had a fling with Basinger, too. He said they connected when he protected her from her allegedly abusive husband. Even though they were romantically involved, Peters said they remained close friends. Interestingly, Batman star Michael Keaton reportedly had feelings for Basinger as well, and felt hurt when he found out she was seeing Peters instead. After that, she was linked to a few other notable names, including fashion designer Alexio Gandara and fitness guru Phil Walsh. Aside from the men already mentioned, legendary music icon Prince was also captivated by Kim Basinger's charm, a connection that turned out to benefit her in more ways than one. Long before she achieved stardom in Hollywood, Basinger had a strong passion for music and dreamed of becoming a singer. She made several attempts to break into the industry, releasing a handful of singles and covers, and even collaborating with big names like Ozzy Osbourne and Prince. Speaking of Prince, their professional and personal connection ran deep. In 1989, Basinger recorded an entire album with him titled Hollywood Affair. Although the album was never officially released, it eventually leaked in Germany in 1997. And with some digging, you might still be able to find it online. Their relationship was far from ordinary. In fact, it became so intense that Basinger stepped away from Hollywood to live with Prince at his mansion in Minneapolis. Her sudden disappearance from the spotlight shocked her family, who feared she was being manipulated. Their concern grew to the point where they reportedly stormed into Prince's home while he was away and brought Basinger back to California by force. As chaotic as her love life seemed, the most tumultuous chapter was still to come. Enter Alec Baldwin, her second husband. The pair met while filming the romantic comedy The Marrying Man, and later shared the screen again in the 1994 remake of The Getaway, as well as a 1998 episode of The Simpsons. The couple spent nearly a decade together and had a daughter, Ireland, born on October 23, 1995. Their split in the early 2000s was far from peaceful. The highly publicized divorce led to a bitter custody battle over their daughter. Baldwin opened up about the experience in his memoir, A Promise to Ourselves, describing it as one of the most grueling periods of his life. Meanwhile, Basinger maintained a quieter stance, focusing on providing a stable, structured environment for Ireland during the separation. Although many believed she vanished from the industry, Basinger quietly shifted her focus behind the scenes. In 2008, she starred in and produced the crime thriller While She Was Out, showcasing her ability to manage both roles on a single project. Like many celebrities, Basinger experienced a fall from grace, something not uncommon in the ever-changing world of fame. But rather than spiraling into self-destruction, she embraced the changes in her life with humility and composure. Unlike others in her position, she never succumbed to substance abuse or personal scandal, which helped her maintain some semblance of normalcy. Her resilience extended to her love life as well. Since 2014, she has been romantically linked to her longtime hairstylist, Mitch Stone. While they've kept their relationship private, sightings of the two wearing gold bands have sparked speculation about a deeper commitment. Basinger also found solace in new creative outlets. She began writing children's books, an artistic pursuit she described as both therapeutic and fulfilling. In a 2021 interview with Vulture, she shared how she and Stone spent much of their time in Hawaii, which she referred to as their favorite place on Earth. Writing, she said, had always been a passion, and children's stories became her way of expressing that. In addition to her creative pursuits, Basinger devoted herself to animal rights activism. A longtime vegetarian and vocal supporter of animal welfare, she has posed in anti-fur campaigns for PETA and worked with several animal protection organizations. Her efforts included helping pass legislation to protect farm animals and calling out the dog meat trade in Asia. In March 2023, when Indonesia officially banned the practice, Basinger publicly thanked Jakarta's interim governor Heru Budi Hartono, applauding him for his humane stance. "Dogs are not food," she declared in a heartfelt message, adding that such laws have the power to safeguard both animals and humans. She emphasized that dogs are not only loyal companions, but also invaluable members of society. Though her last major film roles were in 50 Shades Darker and 50 Shades Freed, parts she took on at the urging of her daughter, Basinger appears to have no intention of returning to mainstream acting. Instead, she's leaned into voice acting, lending her voice to projects like the Amazon Prime series Comrade Detective and the animated short film Back Home Again. In the end, Kim Basinger's journey has been a roller coaster, full of highs, lows, and unexpected turns. But through it all, she's remained true to herself, finding strength in simplicity and fulfillment in quiet causes. So, what's your take on her legacy? Do you think she's a failure, as some suggest, or someone who simply chose a different path? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Until next time, stay golden.